Donald Trump, once again, is repealing more regulations. Yes, indeed, America, more regulations to repeal. President Trump signed legislation this past Monday repealing a major last-minute Obama regulation using the Congressional Review Act. Alaska Representative Republican Dan Young introduced a bill which passed legislation through the House of Representatives in February to repeal a U.S. Fishery and Wildlife Services rule limiting hunting and fishing on federal lands in Alaska. The CRA allowed Congress to repeal the new regulation within a certain time period. The Senate voted to repeal the rule in March over the objection of environmentalists who argued it would prevent the slaughter of Alaskan bear cubs and wolf pups. So, in a nutshell, boiling it all down, this is what this means for you at home, is that this is where, and I've said this over and over again, and I'm going to say this again. I get it. This week, depending on when you watch this, we will see Neil Gorsuch become the next Supreme Court justice. That's going to happen. In the grand scheme of things, America, yes, this is going to have impact on real people's lives. It will. But what's going to be more impactful on people's lives is what's happening on the regulatory stuff. And this is just one example of a regulation gone repealed, gone bad. And this is just the beginning, right? The EPA is going to start repealing stuff. And next thing you know, there's going to be coal-fired power plants in your backyard. And you're like, how did that get here? So America, I'm telling you, you've got to follow the story on this one. I know you want to focus. I know progressives want to focus on the damn Russians. And I know progressives want to focus on Gorsuch. And I know people want to talk about the Trump budget. And yes, we should talk about all those things. And all those things are warranted for our conversations. But with all that being said, guys, what we've got to pay attention is what these cabinet secretaries and these Trump regulators are doing when it comes to repealing regulations that have made our air cleaner, that has made our student loan system fair, that has made the water we drink potable, that has made it easier for working moms to get access to certain services from the government, or what is reeled in corporate overreach. This is where we're seeing some of these little things. There's some of them we're seeing through legislation, right? So we saw the president last week, I talked about this on the show, sold your internet privacy away, right? Now he's saying that like baby cubs can get slaughtered and wolf pups can get slaughtered. We saw Betsy DeVos roll back a Dear Colleagues letter for trans students to be protected in schools. Then the week after that, she rolled back another Dear Colleagues letter, which basically allowed these student loan debt collectors to wreak havoc and pillage people trying to pursue the American dream. And then after all of that, we saw her then repeal another regulation that would have allowed folks, or almost nullify, that said, if you work for government, you have the ability to, what's what I'm looking for? You have the ability to write off your student loan debt, for student loan debt forgiveness. So this is where these things are going to happen, and we're going to cover them here on the Fowler Show. But I urge you guys, I urge this movement to, just for a minute, I get it, this Russia thing is a big deal. But guess what, y'all? He's already president of the United States of America. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm 100% wrong, but I just don't believe we're going to build up a big enough case to impeach Donald Trump in the next 2 years. And I don't think Republicans are going to vote to impeach him. So that is a worthless fight that we cannot win. And while we're taking on that fight, there are actual Americans suffering that we should be fighting for. We should be fighting for those students who are trying to get their student loan debt repaid, who now have to deal with a debt collector who's friends with Betsy DeVos. We should be fighting for all those people that benefited from the clean coal plan that President Obama put together that stopped coal-fired power plants from being built in people's backyards and their kids suffering from asthma and bronchitis and lung cancer and melanoma and all the other disease. What's the one? I can't remember the name of whatever. Mesothelioma. There it goes. Right? That's what we've got to be fighting. We have got to start telling the stories and amplifying the stories of the small things. Because these small things have a really big impact in people's lives, the people who we claim to fight for. So yes, it's fun to talk about Putin and the Russians. But that doesn't have a real impact on the lives of everyday working families. The overtime rule has an impact on everyday working families. And trust me, Trump is going to repeal it. And those are the fights that we've got to take on. Yes, Gorsuch is an awful nominee. And yes, Merrick Garland should be the Supreme Court justice. But truth be told, Gorsuch it's a Scalia for Scalia seat, right? When he won, we knew we were going to get a conservative. We know that there's going to be some court cases that we're going to lose. But we have got to talk about these regulatory changes. That's how we empower Americans to get involved in the process. We'll be back after this break.